go.
Okay, another episode of Getting to Know the Founders. We have Elijah here. You know what? I'm gonna let him do his introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, country and area, and what you're up to now.
Yeah, Elijah, 21 years old, born and raised in Dagenham, RMA.
Yes, sir.
Um, One brother, both my parents in the home. Um, Went to Robert Clark, shout out Dagenham,
Mhm.
for secondary and sixth form.
Yeah.
Then did a degree apprenticeship at Salesforce.
Yeah.
Started banning in the meantime. Went to Dublin for a bit, experienced a different country, came back here, and now, having fun running the Black Apprentice Network
Okay.
and all the other endeavors that we'll, get onto in the next couple months and years.
It's a very humble intro. Like, there's a lot more details that we know, but we're gonna get into that. I think it'd be good to go chronologically. So, I think you gave us a little bit of you started in Dagenham, raised and born in Dagenham, but what did that look like? What did life in Dagenham, the trenches, look like?
Um, Dagenham was interesting. I'll go from secondary. I think I went to the sort of secondary that whenever you had a partner, you used to like talk to them. Um, there was still like I think social like statuses as there are in every secondary, but I think it was really interesting to be in an environment in a pretty big school. You know, I think you went to the school as well. At one point, biggest school in Europe, and I think it was interesting to kind of like talk to a lot of different characters. Um, what's interesting? Like I think um, the more and more I've kind of gotten older, I've kind of just noticed how different Dagenham is compared to the rest of London. If you want to say it's in London, it's on the edge. Um, but yeah, like the way that different people from different boroughs think, the way that in Dagenham there is a little bit of I don't want to say despair, but there isn't as much hope and as much optimism for the future. Um, you're in Dartford. I think you could comment on that, but especially in the different environments that I was in, because I think I only started kind of operating in environments where someone had like a bit of ambition, probably when I was like 16, 17. I remember, first time I went to Stratford, with you, like I think
That's good memories, man.
that was a whole experience.
Yeah.
Like just even being in a building like Stratford, I was like, wow, like
Yeah.
I didn't know things like that. Oh, first, you could just like this is just an hour away from the house. I thought all there was Romford.
Yeah.
So just like patrolling through Dagenham, it was an interesting experience. I definitely enjoyed myself in Dagenham. I'm happy I grew up in Dagenham. But yeah, it was just an interesting experience going to Robert Clark, walking through Dagenham, going to my Roding primary school. It was interesting.
Fair enough. And how do you feel like dealing with all those different types of people shaped you? I mean, having such a multicultural school, a lot of people, some people refer to it like, oh, that was a black school, but it wasn't. It was a very diverse school. I would say like you had pretty much every culture you could find in that school. So what was your kind of experience, not just culturally, but I think in terms of the characters you dealt with, and did that change your path?
I think there was so many different characters, and being that it was the type of school where you talk to the different the partner that you sit next to in a class. You're put in a seat and plan, and you speak to the partner next to you. It made me kind of understand that even people that are quiet or may not be as big of characters, they still have a whole different personality.
Yeah.
And they can still be interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's people that I sat next to in class that I really kind of got on with. I have a hall of fame of like my favorite partners. My top 5 partners.
Yeah.
Not trying to gas people too much, but yeah, I have people that I would have never thought I'd really get on with them, and I would even like come into the class and look forward to like sitting next to them.
Yeah.
But through going to Robert Clark and through being in a situation where again different cultures, probably most of my kind of favorite partners I've had throughout Robert Clark, I think most of them aren't even black. So I think they just may have like a Owen their surname like me. But I think I think it was just an interesting experience. Yeah, it was an interesting experience. I know you had someone that you were in every class.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was just interesting to have grown up in that environment, to talk to many different characters, to get on with many different characters.
Yeah.
and just to kind of navigate, because I think as well, like at the beginning of secondary, I think I was kind of like I think there were people that are more chameleon than me, but I was definitely like someone that would speak to any sort of kind of like person that kind of came along me. There's a lot of people that even if I wasn't like close friends with them, I would have maybe like had a conversation with, especially if they were in like the top band. Sorry to those bottom band people. You know, while we were in secondary, that's when the set 8 meme started kind of
But we were such a big school that set 8 was like the middle set, so it was kind of like. But then again,
exactly.
At the same time, academically the school was quite low, so they were probably set 8 like every other school.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting also to see the growth from year 7, year 9. I would definitely say like a lot of our friendship group at the time were chameleons. We got along with everybody. And didn't necessarily have a space, but it meant that we were able to
multiple different spaces.
Exactly.
Every year switch.
Literally, and we were able to make friends with pretty much everybody. But how was the transition from secondary to sixth form? I know that there was a lot of changes you went through, and I had left the school. I went to Dartford. So what was your experience like changing? You know, staying in the school but growing as a person.
I think my first I think there's different stages in which I had like different levels of ambition. And I know like even just before sixth form, around like year 10, year 11, that's when I started kind of maybe connecting effort to accomplishment and wanting to be like a harder worker. I think I remember I did GCSE and ICT, and in year 10 there was something that made up of like 25% of our grade, and I got a low mark in the exam, like a very low mark. I think I got either like an E or a U, and I was super like, I was angry, and that's when I started to kind of understand, okay, cool, how do I succeed, and how do I at least kind of make sure I get a better grade. And then through that experience, that's when I started kind of wanting to work harder and things like that. I also had like one of the things I really focused on during secondary is exercises to make sure I get my confidence up. Like I really wanted to be a confident person, even though I think to a point I am a naturally confident person. But I went through some extreme situations to like make myself more confident. So there was always that from me. There was always that wanting to be better.
Yeah.
But I had the first element of that during GCSE. So when it came to sixth form, I was really driven to kind of do well. But I think in sixth form, it's still like a very similar experience because I was in the same sixth form as I had secondary. However, I think it was a very different. It was a very different experience because, in some ways, I think during the GCSE period, I think people used to kind of speak to kind of everyone. However, I think in sixth form it just became much more cliquey.
Yeah.
Even I became much more cliquey. I know there was one person in the school that I was like really close with during sixth form.
Yeah.
And we used to do a lot of crazy stuff.
Fair enough.
I don't want those clips to come out.
If those clips come out, it's going crazy. But I think it's good to frame where you are right now in terms of where you wanted to be in sixth form. I think sixth form is the first interaction people have with such a high level of ambition because you know that there's a next step like university, apprenticeships, or going straight for work. But in an area like Dagenham, a lot of it was despair. So I think despair being like a common experience from disadvantaged areas, but I think it's good to understand what was your view on life? Like, what did you want to do? What did you want to achieve? And what type of person did you want to be?
Like at sixth form, what do I want to be? I really wanted to go LSE.
I remember.
I really wanted to go
Warwick.
LSE, Warwick were definitely my top 2 choices.
Yeah.
I think I was very interested in them. I didn't know what exactly finance was, but I think I did want it. I think because I always wanted to be rich. I always wanted to make money and do well for myself. I don't think I had as much of a clear picture of how to get there as I do now, but I always wanted to be rich. And I always thought, okay, cool, the next step would be to go to like a good university, at least in like year 12.
Yeah.
Because I remember during year 12, like, especially during like year 12 was COVID as well. I remember like there were times where I just used to like study all day at a dinner table. I remember parts of Clubhouse during COVID as well. But yeah, but I also remember that during year 12, and even like throughout like secondary school, just having a very close knit friendship group, especially during secondary school,
Yeah.
like having a very close knit friendship group. And I think a lot of my experience throughout secondary school and sixth form was being in that friendship group because there's so many different moments, like really funny moments,
Fair.
um, and character developing moments that I had within that friendship group.
Mm.
And as you said, like we're kind of comedians, we got on with a lot of people. But I think, yeah, in terms of ambitions, maybe going to finance, I don't think I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do an economics degree at like at LSE or Warwick. Um, I knew I had ambition, and I think at the start of sixth form, that's when I was kind of going out, like kind of delving into different environments, other than Stratford. I remember doing like that summer between secondary school and sixth form, like I was going to Stratford like every week. I think you were there all the time.
I was there. I can't blame you. I mean, it was like
YouTubers
literally,
around, yeah.
and it was like going from Dagenham and Romford, which was like pretty much the only activities we pretty much spent our time doing, like bowling, cinema, Nando's. Nando's was even bougie.
Yeah,
Nando's was
it
like
bougie.
a celebration. Like it was like, oh, we made it, and that was like non-school uniform day. I think it's also going to Stratford was a pivotal moment. It was definitely
100%.
a moment that defined
That's crazy.
the direction you went towards in terms of like learning rejection and getting used to like confidence. What else would you say is a pivotal moment in sixth form? I would say like things like Amos Bursary, things like going to LSE opening day or the Black Excellence Awards or something like that.
During sixth form, I think Amos came. I think Amos was year 13. I was still touching it because it just made a drastic difference in my life. But being able to be in Amos, being able to be surrounded by other people that had a bit more ambition,
Yeah.
and able to go on incredible experiences. Not necessarily during sixth form, but during my apprenticeship, I got the opportunity to go to Lisbon, got the opportunity to go to New York, and those experiences were really pivotal to me to just exposing myself to what's possible. You know, in Lisbon, kind of being around, you know, multi-million-pound startups, being able to shake hands with billionaires.
Yeah.
They're not like number one in my phone book or anything, but like being able to just see, oh, first you're actually a real person.
Yeah.
Have a little conversation within Amos, having so many, you know, amazing role models. I think it was an incredible experience being part of Amos Bush, and even just getting the opportunity to just become accustomed to offices, because there's probably a lot of aspiring apprentices listening to this, and being able to kind of get accustomed to being in that sort of environment, like it primes you to kind of eventually when you get into that sort of corporate environment to feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think I got that experience from Amos, but also from Generating Genius. I think Generating Genius was the first like program I sort of enrolled myself into. And I remember like a really pivotal moment was there was a Generating Genius event, and I went into like Barclays.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun, and it was just crazy to just be in that Canary Wharf environment. It's at night. I walk out, and it's just like tall buildings everywhere. I'm around, you know, people that went to kind of LAE and Brampton. I was like, oh, fair. It's like this is a different environment.
Yeah.
Like that Barclays event meant a lot to me. Being on LinkedIn, and probably maybe there may be aspiring apprentices that have this experience now, but I remember like during COVID, there was some like really, even people around my age doing like big things, maybe 1 year older on LinkedIn as well, and like being able to see those people was a pivotal moment as well. I'm trying to think another pivotal moment. Probably, I remember I went to one conference with you as well, the Black Achievement, not the Black Achievement Conference at LSE.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah. Again, just being around an environment of people in year 12 that were wanted to do more in life. I wanted to go to university and go to great universities.
Yeah.
I think that was just an experience.
Fair enough.
Seeing LSE, I think there was a panel of different LSE undergraduates, and just seeing that panel, like
Lamide Elizabeth there.
Lamide Elizabeth as well. Seeing that panel was just like, oh wow, like there's actually black people in this university.
Yeah.
Granted, not much, but there's actually black people in this university. I think that Black Achievement Conference started my soft spot for people in LSE. I have a massive soft spot for people that go to LSE.
We know. I think.
But yeah, like those are sort of the experiences during sixth form that I thought were really pivotal, and kind of even kind of frame shifting in my mind.
Nah, I think, yeah, all of those experiences, because a lot of them I was there for, and kind of not just watching you, but also like from my own perspective, they were transformational. And I think, yeah, I think first year as well. I think first year defined a lot of the
That was
behaviors
crazy.
going forward. Like it was a madness. I think, yeah, tell people a little bit about first years, the ups, the downs, as well as like the development.
First year, being able to work for Salesforce, and as time goes on, as time went on in first year, just being able to understand how big of a company Salesforce is, and um, how much of an impact it has on the world, and how much of a reputation that Salesforce has. Um, because it's a B2B company, it's not a B2C company. Not everyone knows exactly what Salesforce is, because they don't need to. The average consumer is not going to know Salesforce like a Netflix, but they're the same size sort of organization.
Mm.
Um, Being able to continuously be exposed to that, be continuously exposed to, like, there were people I was walking with on the floor, at least especially on like the sales floors, that were making a couple $100,000 a year. And as I kind of, not say, I don't want to say that's not a big amount of money, but like just being able to kind of be in that environment where people are earning that much is like, wow,
Yeah.
like that's a big thing. Also just kind of starting. I've always loved learning, but really delved into kind of like learning more and more about Salesforce, and how to let different certifications and things like that. Just really started my learning journey. And even outside of Salesforce, I think first year is when I really got into Amos. I started going to a lot of the events, starting really tapping into the Amos community. I think that was super fun as well. Um, and just being kind of exposed again to like the incredible examples that Amos has to offer. And speaking of Amos, I got the opportunity to go to Lisbon.
Yeah.
Super, like that was crazy. Like I got like 3 hours of sleep during that trip. Um, I tried to do that recently, and
it didn't work. You're getting old, man.
It didn't hit the same. But that trip, like I was on it, man. I was on it, and that was just an experience. Even less on the professional side. Like one of the Amos Olders took the not took us out, but we went to clubbing like every day.
Yeah.
And like they were getting tables, and like tables cost a decent amount, and just seeing people people earn a certain amount of money and being able to spend it like here, like on a table on a whim, was just crazy to me.
Yeah.
That was so crazy to me. So it kind of exposed me a bit to, okay, cool, like when you have a certain amount of money, like I don't even think that person that did that, Victor Zabuki, I don't think he understood how much of a difference it made in my mind that, oh, first, like I may make, not saying that he's rich or anything, but I'm wealthy enough where like I could give these experiences to other people.
Mm.
I think that was crazy. I think that was crazy to me.
Yeah.
That's something that I want to do in the future. If I see you in a club, don't make me. Not everything's on me. Not everything's on me. Unless.
Bro.
But that experience was wild. Again, Web Summit, being in Lisbon and going to Web Summit was an experience. Being around that environment.
Yeah.
I also got the opportunity to go to New York during at least first year summer, and that was an experience to me.
Fair.
Like seeing how people in Salesforce New York operate, and like I live with the other New York AB guys, including Kwesi. We lived in like a place called Scarsdale, which is one of the kind of wealthiest areas of America, and just being in that sort of environment, seeing the houses, even in the house that we stayed at, there was quite a few rooms. Like, Kwesi, do you remember how many rooms were in the house we stayed at?
10-bed house.
Like a crazy house in a rich area.
Yeah.
I know that house is probably worth like a couple million. Even sounds low.
Yeah.
But just being able to be exposed in that sort of environment was crazy to me. Like I remember there was a guy that his name's Eric, and he sold a company to IBM, and he was working within Salesforce, and he invited me to this bar, and the prices on some of the drinks were like crazy. It was one of those like local New York bars on like 13th Street
Yeah.
that maybe only wealthy people maybe bring clients to. Being able to see that menu and see people kind of coming in and out, like having service, like having really nice service at the bar, like it was just an incredible experience to me. It was like, wow, like that's the thing. But yeah, I think being able to go through those experiences really demonstrated to me, the fruits of ambition.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing experience. But yeah, even my apprenticeship experience, like I think the reason, um, even like going back a bit to year 13, the reason why I did an apprenticeship is because I wanted to learn and earn at the same time, and I didn't want to, at the end of that, the 3 or 4 year experience, I didn't want to come out and solely be hired based on my potential. If I went to university, I wanted to be hired based on both my potential and also some of the skills I learned throughout that time,
Yeah.
which I did. But I think um, just also being able to kind of be exposed to the growing apprenticeship space was really interesting as well.
Yeah.
More and more people, not as crazy as it is now,
Mm-hmm.
but more and more people kind of delving into the apprenticeship space, and even being early in the space,
Yeah.
where there was still a decent number of big companies kind of getting into the space and releasing their own apprenticeship programs. It was almost I don't want to say it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, but it was like a special time.
Yeah.
Where like now it's just ridiculously competitive.
Yeah.
There was a special time where it wasn't as competitive. You could kind of enter these big companies.
Yeah. And what would you say the best decision you made on the apprenticeship was? Well, you had like give us your top three.
One of those was probably being able to network within the organization, talk to different people.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how incredible the experiences of some of the people within Salesforce was.
Mm-hmm.
It being a top tier company, being able to attract top tier talent, you can see that in the conversations you have with people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely an experience. So I think that was being able to build the relationships I did was super fun and super beneficial. On the apprenticeship program, the times I spent learning, like I think the certification is done within Salesforce, and I was thinking about this during like second year, like the certain certifications are done, especially in a company like Salesforce. It automatically means that if I wanted to go back into that role in the future, I don't want to say it's like I'll never go broke again, but it's like a safety blanket being able to be in this apprenticeship program and learn the skills that I did.
Yeah.
Where it's like if I'm ever, broke, like there's a job that could take me because of the skills I learned within this apprenticeship program. I think every apprenticeship program should be that for you. It should be a place where I'm saying never go. Yeah, kind of never go broke again. Like you learn skills within the apprenticeship program and you build experiences that allow you to, at least for a certain period of time, you could get a job whenever you want, and even in a downturn,
Mm-hmm.
like the market's ridiculous.
Fair enough.
Like you're able to kind of get hired. Like there's people in universities now that where like they're graduating, and even if you went to a really good university, first class degree, it's super tough for you to get a role. However, I think especially if you went on a good apprenticeship scheme, I don't think there's as many barriers at all. So being able to kind of learn the skills I did within Salesforce.
I would have thought you would also put moving out in your top three.
I was thinking more so specifically like my apprenticeship.
Fair enough.
I could go through like there's a couple like personal experiences throughout the 3 year time of my apprenticeship program that was really pivotal, and I'll explain them later. But I think especially on the apprenticeship program, just to round out that top three, I'd probably say. I'd probably say on a networking point, a bit more specifically, like the networking I did to kind of be able to get my dream role after the apprenticeship, which involved me after the apprenticeship going to Dublin for a period of time. I think that was an experience, and that kind of showed me, oh, first like this networking thing, like it actually can materialize into something special. But in terms of the personal side, throughout the 3 year program, one obviously like Black Apprentice Network.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think a Black Apprentice Network would be where it is today. I think at the beginning, like especially in terms of the current apprentices, I don't think we thought, what was the number, like 200, 250, 300?
Around that.
Yeah, I didn't think there would be many black current apprentices across the UK, and it was never a thing where it could get into a position where we could do it full time. To me, it was like a project to do it for a couple of years that would make a decent impact within the community. But to see the scale at which it's grown to, and also the other projects that we're thinking of being able to kind of delve into as a result of building the community that we have, I think is really incredible. It's crazy.
Yeah.
If you told me it like, when did we start, like 2.5 years ago? 2.5 years ago, if you kind of explained to me or any of us like what it would be at this point, I think it would be, I don't think we'd believe it, or we think it's ridiculous. that moving out was a massive experience. I think, like, I'm someone that subscribes to people moving out at least for a year, even not necessarily during their apprenticeship program, but like at least throughout the younger years, because it's just like it exposes you to a different environment, and I think when you're in the place that you grew up, you establish just certain habits and certain ways of doing things, and those kind of break if you're in a new environment because you're exposed to different stimuli. It's still a house, but you're exposed to different stimuli, and I think it makes it much more easier to break and build new habits.
Yeah.
And being able to move out, I was just able to lock in so much more. The reason why I moved out is because I wanted to elicit a change in myself. I wanted to kind of, I don't want to say better human being, but there was just certain habits and certain ways I wanted to kind of conduct myself that I thought would be easier if I was in a different environment. And that proved to be true for the year that I moved out. I think I moved out for like 9 months during my last year of the apprenticeship program, and obviously I went to Dublin, and I couldn't take my parents' house with me.
Yeah.
So I think being able to like move out and be in those different environments was super pivotal. I probably, if there was any part of the top 3, if I had to rank the top 3, I'd probably put that one.
Fair
Like
enough.
that was a really pivotal experience, which was only possible through my apprenticeship. I guess I could have like went to a uni outside of London, but it was a pivotal experience.
100%.
And third thing, probably like as I said, during secondary school and sixth form, I had a really close knit friendship group, and I stopped being a part of that friendship group during first year. And I think being able to do that I think it just exposed me to different opportunities to meet different people. It exposed me to having different conversations with people. And I think when people talk about the different like personal changes they have during their apprenticeship program or just life in general, I think like it's nice to have those 20-year friendships, but sometimes it makes sense to kind of move on or limit yourself from certain relationships. Not to say there was a toxic situation or anything, but I think I could tell it's the right time to leave those relationships behind. Not behind, but kind of have those relationships change in a different way.
Yeah.
I think that was super pivotal as well. Like I don't want to say that's when my first year started, but I think that's when I started kind of drastically changing into a different person, and I'm so thankful throughout in my first year I was able to do that. I think throughout my apprenticeship program, I think there's different decisions I made each year that were pretty pivotal, or maybe life in general. First year was like that friendship group. Second year was probably because I moved out at the end of the second year.
Yeah.
And then third year was probably like kind of deciding to go to Dublin. But yeah, I like the idea of having a big decision or a big change, maybe once a year.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Fair enough. I think watching it from the perspective of knowing you since year 7, it was crazy to see.
You were part of that friendship group.
Yeah, I was part of that friendship group. Also, like hearing the story of why you had to move out of one of the places and moving
crazy.
to Dublin and stuff. But I think that's a story you'll tell on the podcast for sure. I think to round up, it'd be good to hear let's maybe top 3 voices in general, like whether it's a book you read or like a content creator that you listen to quite often that have influenced you, and how profoundly did they impact you and how?
Yeah. I think I'll probably say number 1 is probably Alex Hormozy.
Knew that was coming.
Yeah, like that guy's. No, I'm not a massive fan of like parasocial relationships, but like, I think he's. There's certain things I've learned from that man. It's just been different, and because I'm more on because of my drive, it's more on the extreme side. Like I resonate with him on certain levels. So it's just there's certain really pieces of advice that he said, and he's really good at explaining things in a really clear way. Whereas like it's really changed my life. Some of them more controversial than others. He said some controversial statements, man. Have you seen the slaves clip?
Yeah. It's gonna get us cancelled, man.
Yeah. So some more controversial than others, but Alex Hormozy has probably been a content creator that's made. And to be fair, like I don't I didn't really like come across this content until the last year. Last year of my apprenticeship, but it made a huge. He's made a huge difference in my life in terms of the way I viewed certain things.
Yeah.
Maybe second year of my apprenticeship.
What things specifically? Just briefly though.
I think the number one thing is that I think he has this video where he talks about like being able to denounce. I don't know if a lot of people will agree with this. I do though, but I think to denounce certain emotions in the way of he kind of explains in his video how there's a way in which you could kind of if a certain emotion flares up or a certain recurrent thought kind of occurs in your mind, through constant repetition in your mind, you could kind of condition yourself to not think of it as big of a deal or worth your attention. So, a certain thought might like reoccur in your mind.
When that's detrimental.
Yes, so like it could be a toxic thought, it could be a non-toxic thought, it could be any sort of thought. But then, kind of whenever that thought comes up, kind of having the mindset of, oh, this is not worth my attention. This is not important. Because, for example, like I don't vividly remember when I tied my shoelaces, but I don't vividly remember when I tied my shoelaces, but it's not because it's not a memory that is really important to me to kind of keep in my mind.
Yeah.
And I think there's ways in which even when something may seem like it should be deserving of a certain amount of importance, I think it is possible to kind of, especially if it's a negative thought, kind of denounce it as a thought that's not worth your attention.
Okay.
Two more. I'm a massive reader. That's something that's made a big difference in my life as well. I want to say a book. I think Mindset by Carl Dweck is incredible. Just being able to have that belief that you could grow and you could improve your abilities is super important. It's a simple concept that is constantly repeated in the book, but I think it's pivotal.
Yeah.
And third thing, just some of the conversations I've had with current apprentices in the network, even aspiring, but current apprentices specifically, just kind of hearing the different experiences of a lot of the young black people, and what they're experiencing at the moment has been really interesting. It's been really informing a lot of the things that we do in the network, not just me having those conversations, but like you and all of us.
Yeah.
So I think being able to kind of have those conversations with current apprentices, hear their experiences, kind of have those kind of WhatsApp chats, I think it's been incredible. And just understanding what we can do within the Black Apprentice Network to make the black experience a bit more easier and a bit more kind of fun, especially as an apprentice.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I'd say that.
That's amazing. I think it was great to hear from you, Elijah.
Do
you want to give a little bit of an outro?
Yeah. It's been good. If you want to check out the Black Apprentice Network, check out the link in the description. There should be a link to kind of, apply whether you're a current or aspiring apprentice. And when you get in the group, I'll probably send you a message. Let me know when you come from the podcast. It'd be really interesting to hear from that, and also introduce yourself to the GC. But yeah, delve into the Black Apprentice Network if you're curious about it. And yeah, hopefully you see me, Ruben, or Kwesi at an event sometime.
Ring that bell, as he always says. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you for listening. That's it from us today. And we'll be at our next episode. We'll be seeing me. In a bit. Yeah, no, that was a good episode. So.